Hey there, sweetheart, baby doll. You like fabric? You like fabric? Well, I got your fabric right here.
Yes, I have bins full of fabric and some clothes that need some TLC, so come along with me to see how many projects I can get done this week. I have this green fabric. I kind of wanted to make like an apron out of it. I've got this fabric, which I kind of wanted to make just a really flowy shirt. I've got this, which is the remains of a linen bed sheet, which I had turned into some fantastic pants. But my idea was to take some of this, and I've also got some lace in here somewhere, and dye the lace black to match this and just make a really cute top. Oh, I have these shorts that I really love, but they need to be repaired. I think I'm gonna prioritize repairs. I don't know what I'm gonna do this week, we'll see. This is a dress that I thrifted.
It's made out of fabric.
It is made out of fabric. I already started taking it apart to alter it, so this is a definite must finish this week that I wanna get it done. I wanna finish it. It's actually the same style as the dress that I'm wearing, but it's a little bit bigger, and I want to make it a square neck and just obviously take it in a little bit. I do recognize that there are problems with people taking larger garments and making them smaller. A few reasons that I don't feel as bad about this is because this particular piece, first of all, it's a unique kind of style that isn't as popular. Second of all, I got it out of the Goodwill bins or the Goodwill outlet, which means that basically if I didn't pick it up, it was heading to the landfills. And then third, I noticed that it has there's little holes. Anyways, there's a few little holes in here that I'm going to repair with some cute embroidery. So even if somebody did pick it up, it would mean that it was probably going to either head right to the landfill once somebody noticed that it had little holes in it. Just people don't repair clothing as often. So yeah, I don't feel bad about taking this particular thing and bringing it down to my size. I have this t-shirt that I got for my husband and he loves it, but I also washed it with a red dress and it got dye all over just splotchy red dye. So we got some purple dye. He really likes purple, and we're gonna try and just dye the shirt. Suffice it to say, I have plenty of sewing activities that I can get right into, and we'll see how much of it that I can get done so that it's no longer sitting in boxes lying around my house. I probably won't get hardly even a dent into my sewing escapades, but let's see where things take us. All right, it has been some time since I've picked up this project, so I'm trying to figure out where I'm at with it. So I have taken off the inner, I've taken that apart so that I can cut it down to make that square neck that I want. So this is the bodice section. I didn't fully disconnect it from the skirt because I didn't need to. I'm going to be taking it in on the sides, and it looks like I pinned down where I need those to go in at. And then here's the lining piece. Let me know if you're a more experienced sewist, if you know what this little lining piece is that goes around the sleeve. My mom taught me how to sew, and her mom taught her how to sew. And other than that, I've learned kind of from the internet and just by experience, so I don't know a lot of the terms. So if you know what this piece is called that lines the inside so that you don't have like a raw edge, let me know in the comments below what that's called. I'm gonna keep most of the skirt and just pleat it in so that it matches the top. So I think that's what I have going on. I'm gonna start by taking this in and getting the bodice ready to reattach to the skirt part. So let's get to work. Sorry about the focus issues in this part. It is really difficult to know what the camera is doing with these over-the-shoulder shots, and I guess I need to play with my camera a little bit more to figure out how to get it to focus on what I want it to and then stay focused on that thing, because I feel like sometimes it will adjust to what appears to be a human body. I don't know how smart these cameras are these days. In any case, you can see in these lovely shots that I am just sewing up the sides of the dress so that that is going to be how I take it in to adjust the fit for my body. And now you're seeing me cut off the excess fabric, so there's no going back now. After cutting off the excess, I went ahead and finished off that seam with a zigzag stitch to keep the fabric from fraying. I then cut the facing bits down to size so that they would match the new seam and the new size of the dress. I then sewed those edges together and they were ready to be sewn down to finish off those armholes. I don't know what happened to the footage of me squaring off the neckline, but the process was similar. I finished reassembling this dress. I am really excited to style it, but before I can do too much with it, I made a few little whoopsies. When I did the seam ripper, I was going too fast and I ended up catching more fabric than thread, so I need to add that to the places that I have to mend on this dress. The other thing I think that I have a little time to accomplish today is to dye this shirt with my purple dye. And I was reading the back of this dye and it says that it will do about 2 adult large t-shirts. So I figured while I'm at it, I may as well add another shirt. I ran downstairs and I looked for another shirt that would make a good candidate, and I found this one. It is a silk top, strike 1. The armpits are getting a little dingy. Strike 2, it's pretty see-through when I wear it, and I don't love layering for the purpose of covering up. So I think possibly dyeing it purple will make it maybe a little less transparent. But I also don't have a lot of purple in my wardrobe, and I like to have a variety of colors. So it'll be good to have maybe something purple. So those are the things I have to do. Let's get cooking. And the first step in this recipe was boil some water. So I filled up a pot and put it on the stove and boiled that water. And here it is in my sink, which was a bad idea, but spoilers. I mixed in the other ingredients, which were salt and vinegar. And finally, the main ingredient, that dye packet. All that was left to do was stir it all up and add my fabrics. When dyeing fabric, it helps to pre-wet your material so that it will dye more evenly. Luckily for me, I had boiled an additional pot of water that I didn't actually need for the dye bath, but putting my fabric in that meant that I didn't dilute the heat inside the sink. Not that that mattered, because if you're watching closely, you can see the water in the sink disappearing before your eyes. That's right, a pre-existing problem of which I was aware came back to haunt me when I didn't have a proper plug for my sink and all of the water ran out while I was in the middle of doing this. In a desperate attempt to get the dye to more evenly cover my fabrics, I added the water from my pot into the sink and tried to stir it around while I still had water in there. My attempts were futile, and I would have to go and get more dye to try again. And here we see the raptor claw of frustration emerge.
It is a clear indicator that it is time to give up and move on to something else. Ah, yes, embroidery. Now that's the lady's choice in stress-relieving activities. Nothing like repeatedly and precisely stabbing something with a needle until it succumbs to your will to take the mind off of life's little pitfalls. In this case, it is my will that the holes in this dress become little mushrooms. They make an appropriate and adorable monument to the decay that this dress has seen. And of course, the odd tangle of thread ensures your continued interest in stabbing things until the job is done. With the dawn of a new day, I was ready to start fresh with the dyeing process, and instead of getting a better plug for the sink, I just dyed the fabric directly in my pot. It worked just as well. Better, in fact, considering how it went in the sink the day before. I pulled the t-shirt out first because I was afraid the color would get too dark and you wouldn't be able to see the print through the purple. After I perched that shirt precariously on the precipice of my sink, I pulled the blouse out and rinsed it as well. On to the shorts. After consulting a YouTube video, link in the description, I used shirring thread in the bobbin and pinned down the decorative string to try and preserve that little detail. I wasn't entirely successful in restoring it, but good enough. In case you're wondering, shirring thread is a very thin elastic used in sewing as a kind of modern-day smocking. And with that complete, we move on.
I am going to go ahead and make an apron. I'm going to use this fabric, which I did a little burn test on. And based on my little burn test, I think it's like a cotton poly blend that's been made to look kind of like a rough linen. It is a little on the stiff side. I think it's gonna be cute. Here's my plan. I'm going to use this bodice, but with some alterations. So I'm probably going to, instead of having it go all the way up, bring it to like there, cut this off around here, and just add straps. Cut this stuff out first, and the straps, cut all that out first, then everything else is gonna be skirt.
And if you were able to follow that, you get a gold star. I cut the front bodice pattern piece on a fold. Say that 5 times fast. Front bodice pattern piece, front bodice pattern piece, front. Once I had it situated correctly on the fabric, I went ahead and pinned it in place so it wouldn't wiggle around while I tried to cut it out. And then, wouldn't you know it, I went ahead and cut it all out. I decided to cut out the side and the sleeve hole like the pattern shows, and then I shaped it later after I put the darts in place. But I'm getting ahead of myself because now I have to narrate myself cutting out all of the little straps. I ended up using another piece of that same pattern because I didn't feel like measuring out the width of all of these straps. Although, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have used that pattern piece unless it had conveniently fallen out of its own place and made its existence known to me. I marked out the endpoints to all of my darts before pulling the fabric out from under the oppressive regime of the pattern piece. Then I moseyed on over to my sewing machine and sewed all those darts in place. Finally, my favorite part, cutting the skirt out. I used yet another pattern piece from that same dress pattern, which I've never actually used to make one of those dresses on the bag. Maybe someday, McCalls. Maybe someday. But today is not that day. Today, I need to add pockets to my awesome new apron. I added the straps off camera, both because straps are boring and because my camera battery died on me.
project, I'm going to be making pants out of this fabric that I got at the thrift store, using this pattern that I found on the internet. It's super easy to follow. I've already made 2 pairs of pants with this pattern and I love them both. They are so comfortable, although I made one for my husband, so I don't wear them very often because they're his. So I will be making a pair of pants. Here we go.
The first step in this project is to lay the fabric flat and then cut it in half. Unless you decided to fold it in some other manner that you don't actually have to cut it in half, it really depends. But this was my first step. Then I fold it in half again.
Next, I want to know what my waist to crotch measurement is going to be. I don't need to worry about it going in between my legs because the crotch gusset will take care of that. And then I'm gonna give it a couple more inches, so that looks like 10 inches. So I think I'm gonna do about 12 inches so that I can fold it over and make a waistband. Yeah, I think that'll be good. About 12 inches.
Now I take that measurement that I just took and apply it to my fabric, mark things out. I marked about 6 inches from the edge of that fold, and the only thing left to do after that is to cut out that triangle piece. Make sure that that gets held onto because that becomes the much talked about crotch gusset.
I just grabbed some red thread and some fabric scraps. I'm gonna use this to make pockets.
And all I did to make pockets was cut out vaguely hand-sized rectangles. And with everything cut out, the only thing left to do is to assemble the pieces. As I worked, I made sure to finish off the seams with that zigzag stitch to prevent fraying fabric. It always takes me a minute and a look of bewilderment to remember how to insert a pocket, but I usually get there in the end. And with a scowl of concentration and the doublest of chins, the pocket gets pinned into place and ready to be sewn together on the machine.
The pants are all sewn together. These are clearly way too large. They would fit around my waist and then some. And that's just one side of it. There's a lot. So what I'm going to do is I have this big old spool of elastic that my grandmother left. And I'm going to put that in the waistband. But first I'm going to add some pleats to the waistband so that the elastic isn't doing all of the work of pulling all that in, because this elastic is just very, I don't know, it doesn't feel super sturdy. So yeah, we are going to go ahead and do some pleats.
I used the lovely printed pattern on the fabric to help me determine where to place my pleats, and made sure to do the same pleating on both the front and the back of the pants. And yes, this ladylike pose was entirely necessary to the process of putting together the pleats. Of course, it doesn't hurt to switch things up. You gotta keep the blood flowing. That's the important part. And we're back to the sewing machine. I stitched down each pleat on both sides of the pleat. This helps both when you roll the waistband down and when you go to thread the elastic through the waistband to hold the pants up and in place. It is tedious, but the alternative is even more so. Here you can see many of the pleats already sewn down and me still sewing away more and more pleats. And honestly, I should have done more pleats because these pants were very, very wide. Here you can see on the inside of the front waistband, I have inserted the top of the pocket into that spot so that the pocket stays put. I recently learned that this thick, dull needle is called a bodkin and is used for inserting elastic. Without one, I would usually use a safety pin or a bobby pin. I think I said that right. For hair. Even with this very nice tool, it took me quite a while to thread the elastic around the whole thing, and I stopped a lot to cut loose threads. With the elastic all the way through, I sewed the ends together.
Here is my smaller than I wanted it to be stack of textile projects that I completed this week. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I did. My hair is a wreck from changing my clothes that many times. I'm really excited to be able to wear this dress and that apron and those pants. That apron, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to wear it all week, but I was like, no, I have to hold off so that I can do the reveal before it gets covered in stains and paint and stuff, which it will, that's the point of it, but it's so cute. I love that it flounces so much. Oh, it's, and I'm really excited to add some pieces back into my wardrobe that had to come out. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I would love to see you in the next one. One thing about this week is that I really wanted to get more sewing done and get rid of a lot more fabric from my stash, but there was a project that I was working on last week that didn't get done last week, so it rolled over into this week, so I spent 2 days this week working on that project. If that video's already up, I will post it at the end of this one. If it's not, stay tuned, you'll get to see it. It's really exciting. It was a big project. Obviously, I needed some extra days, which is why I didn't get as much sewing done this week as I would have liked. So thank you for tuning in and watching this video if you made it to the end. Loves, kisses, all the good stuff. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me, and hit like on this video if you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you next time.